I was a senior archivist at a university whose name I no longer feel is safe to write down. My life was a quiet procession of cataloging forgotten histories, handling brittle paper with practiced gentleness. I believed in the history I preserved. I was a guardian of a story I thought was true. Now I know I was merely a janitor in a museum of lies. It began with the Atherton collection, a dusty, unsorted donation from the estate of a 19th century industrialist. My task was to digitize it. Mostly, it was mundane. Shipping manifests, business ledgers, banal personal letters. But then I found the journal. It was bound in dark green leather with no name on the cover. Tucked inside was a photograph. The picture was of the very city I lived in, dated 1852, but it was impossible. The Grand City Hall, which official records claim was built in 1895, stood fully formed. But it wasn't just that. It had a magnificent central spire, an intricate metallic filigree at its peak that was certainly not there today. In the photograph, the street level was a full story lower than it is now. The grand arched windows of what I knew as the ground floor were clearly the second story, with another entire level of ornate stonework visible below them, descending to a wide, clean street. My heart began to beat a little faster. It had to be a fake, a clever composite. But the paper stock was right. The silver nitrate aging was perfect. It was real. The journal explained the impossible photograph. The author was an architect, one of the last who remembered the world before the Great Reset. He never called it Tartaria. He called it the Unified Realm, a global civilization of breathtaking beauty and technological prowess. He wrote not of steam power and coal, but of a boundless, clean energy drawn from the ether. He explained that the towering spires, the copper-clad domes, the intricate metal cresting on every grand building, they weren't mere ornamentation. They were atmospheric energy conductors. The great cathedrals, the old-world post offices, the state capitals, the grand city halls that stand in every major city, they were the power stations of a lost age, bathing the world in harmonious frequencies that promoted health, growth, and clean, limitless energy. The journal described cities of light, connected by silent, elegant airships that navigated the globe's magnetic currents. There was no need for war over resources. Energy was free. He wrote of a people who were healthier, taller, and lived longer. The massive doorways and high ceilings of the old buildings were not for grandeur alone. They were built to a different scale of man. Then he wrote of the inheritors, a cabal of men who saw not a gift to be shared in this free energy, but a power to be controlled. They did not want to serve humanity. They wanted to own it. The Great Reset, he wrote, was not a single event, but a series of engineered cataclysms. The primary one was what he called the mud flood, a weapon, or perhaps a series of them, that liquefied the soil on a continental scale. It was a swift, brutal event that buried cities 30 or 40 feet deep, silencing the energy network and plunging the world into chaos. It wasn't a natural disaster, it was a demolition. It was murder on a global scale. In the aftermath, the inheritors seized control. They rounded up the dazed survivors and the millions of orphaned children who had no memory of the world that was. These were the foundlings who populated the orphan trains, shipped across continents to be raised on a new, fabricated history. The inheritors' new history was one of struggle, of toil, of scarcity. They gave us monarchs and presidents, brutal wars, and grueling industry. They taught us that building something like the Capitol building took 50 years with horse and buggy, conveniently ignoring the fact that hundreds of them were built in the same period across the world, all with a suspiciously similar Greco-Roman, or Beaux-Arts, style that bore no relation to the cultures that supposedly built them. They tore down the etheric spires, replacing them with useless flagpoles and crosses. They rewrote the maps, erasing the name of the unified realm and replacing it with their own borders and divisions. They burned the libraries, the real ones, and filled new ones with their fiction. I left my job that week. I couldn't keep handling the lies. Now I travel, and I see with new eyes. I see the buried windows of old banks, the mud lines still visible in the brickwork. I see the grand, disconnected architecture in small towns that could never have afforded to build them. I see the strange, functionless antennae on courthouse roofs, ghosts of a technology we were forced to forget. They didn't just steal our past, they stole our future. We live in the ruins of a golden age, convinced we are at the peak of civilization, while the proof of our stolen inheritance is all around us, half buried in the mud, dismissed.